The first thing you want to do on any repair where you're going to be under the car with a jack is chalk the tires so that it does not roll off of the jack or jack stands on you. This would make your day very bad. You want to find the jacking point under the car, or a point that you can safely put the jack under, which I prefer to find the A-arm, which is attached to the tire, or I'm sorry, the ball joint assembly. That is a good jacking point because it's going to support the car like the tire would. And since we're doing brakes, we're not worried about pulling the control arm down later. That's where we're going to be jacking this car up from today. Okay, now that we have our jack in position, we have not jacked the car up yet. We want to break loose the lug nuts with our handy dandy cross wrench. Once we get those broke loose, then we're going to raise the car up and we're going to place a jack stand under the subframe for safety. My jack has a tendency to lose its cool when it sits for a while, so we put the jack stand under there. We got double security. If the jack fails, the jack stand's going to save my foot. And now that the car is jacked up, tire off the ground, and jack stand is in place, we can now fully remove the lug nuts and take the tire off. Okay, what we're looking at is our disc, or a rotor as it's professionally called, and this down here is your brake pad. As you can see, there's not much of this brake pad left. Lady was complaining that it's grabbing, which I would say it is. It's probably metal to metal pretty close. We got some rings wore in the disc, so we're going to have to check and see if the disc can be salvaged. A lot of times you can take your disc to the local auto store and they'll turn them down. With the mileage on this car and the way this one looks, I would say it's probably already been turned down once, so you can only have them turned once, and then you have to throw them away and get a new one. So I prefer to throw them away and get a new one every time, just so I know the people are safe whose car I'm working on. So what we need to do is we'll get our handy dandy Allen wrench and we're going to pull the bolts off. There's one here and there's also one at the bottom. And what that'll do is allow us to pull this caliper assembly off, exposing the brake pads. This can be a very, very tough cookie to get out. Make sure that you are using the proper size Allen wrench. Some of them are Star or Torx. Make sure you're using that proper size, because you strip that thing out, you're just plain done. And now that we're in here, I see another problem. This is a stabilizer arm which keeps the front end of the car from rattling and rocking, and it's busted plumb off of its mount. So Miss Elaine is going to end up needing a new bushing assembly before this car goes back on the road. Now that I've seen this, I won't allow her to drive it until it's fixed. Okay, now then, we have our caliper busted loose, with the exception of the feeder line that's running into it. The back pad's pretty well had it. The pad on the inside, though, is not doing too bad. However, you want to change these in the pair, not reusing old pads. The disc is definitely got some thick grooves in it, so it will not be able to be turned. Nice thing about the front wheel drives, you should just pull the disc off and we'll slide a new disc on here in a little bit. Right now I'm going to pull those brake pads off and get a C-clamp, and I'll show you what we do next. Alright, we got the new disc in place. Make sure that you clean the disc very well, because they are oil coated from the factory. So you want to spray them down good with brake cleaner. The next thing we need to do is remove the brake fluid reservoir cap, because what we're going to do is squeeze the caliper down so that the new fat brake pads will fit. And you can use a C-clamp, and we just want to squeeze and compress that unit back in to its cylinder. And when we compress that, the brake fluid pushes its way back into the system. What I like to do is take this down to where it's flat. And the fact that this one's moving nice and easily tells me that there's no problems with it. Squeeze that nice and flat. And then when we put our brake pads back into that caliper, they'll slide over the disc nicely. Okay, now some people might say, God, I got the wrong piece, I don't know what I'm doing here. These things only go on one way. Those clips are going to snap inside of the caliper cylinder, and those are installed. And this is going to snap over the outside. Kind of hard to do with one hand, so forgive me. There we go. And that's locked into place. Remembering to put your anti-seize compound on the back of the pads before you install them. It keeps the brake system quieter. And then we size up to make sure it'll slide over our disc. The last thing I'm going to do is pound these pins out in here and put in a new set of rubbers. That's also going to quiet the front end of the car down a little bit. Right in here is what they call the hardware kit. This is a rubber ring that goes all the way through, and this steel push pin goes into that, and that's what attaches the car, the caliper to the car. So if those rubbers are wore out in there, you're going to get a lot of vibration and noise when you step on the brake. So I'm going to replace those. We're going to snap the caliper back into place, and then we'll put our bolts back in and torque them down. And this side of the car will have new brakes and a new disc on it in about 15 minutes. Okay, so here we are back together. So we got to do is throw our tire on. However, before that, I'm not going to put it on this video, but I have to get me a stabilizer bushing kit here and reconnect to that little hole, that little guy. I went and talked to the owner of the car, and she said, yeah, for some time the front end's been waddling back and forth a little bit, which kind of stands to show me what's going on with the tire here. Got a little capping on it. So hopefully the replacement of that bushing that's missing, front end of her car will feel a lot better for her. But she'll be able to stop now without it grabbing and carrying on and making a fool of itself. So now on to side 2. Hope this has helped you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to send a message. And for those of you that know what you're doing, yeah, this is probably boring stuff, but there's a lot of people out there that don't know what they're doing, that shouldn't be doing this. So hopefully this helps them.